Hey everybody, it's your boy VG Time back again with another video. This time I'm showing you what you could do if you just buy two copies of the Vegeta Starter deck for Fusion World. If you're like me, you're not really diving straight in and you just want to be able to build something that is fun and competitive on a budget. Or if you're also like me, you live in an area where the product is kind of scarce. Well, this might just be the video for you. Now, granted, I can't give you one of these for every single deck because I don't actually have access to all of them. But I can at least do this for you for Vegeta, and I don't see too many people doing this right now. Just to give you a heads up what the leader does, on swing you draw a card. When you get to 4 or less life, you awaken by drawing a card and flipping over. And then on the backside is where you see his mechanic come to life, which is he is able to become a 35k as an activate main if you have 7 or less cards in your hand. And of course, on swing, you draw. So just a quick tip, whenever this situation come up and it's your turn where you have 7 or less cards in hand, just activate a skill. It doesn't matter what your hand go up to after that point, but at least he will stay at 35k. All right, so I'm going to be going through this by uh, cost. So we're going to start with the one drops. We're going to play 3 copies of the Boma blocker. I actually like these one drop blockers more than a lot of other people do. I know they're easy to remove, but the way I look at it is that you're not really supposed to just throw them out there and hope they live. You're supposed to throw them out there in multiple on the turn that your opponent is going to try to kill you. So if you know that you're going into your opponent's kill turn, you just drop a couple of these, and then usually they could get rid of one easily. The second one takes a little bit more effort, and if you know they're playing a color that could get rid of things real easily, maybe you were fortunate enough you got the third one, you play all 3 on that turn. Then we have our remaining one drops, which is 4 copies of Trunks, which is a great turn one play if you're going first. And then 4 copies of Goten, which is still a solid turn one play and a really good turn two play, depending on what your play style is for that particular matchup. Some matchups you want to be super aggressive, and he is about as aggressive as it gets on a 4-1 drop. And some matchups you want to not be so aggressive so that you're the one awakening first. It all depends on, again, the matchup. Next up, we have 4 copies of Trunks. Trunks is the first 2 drop we're going to show you. The reason why this guy is good is because he is almost always a 25k. His requirement is that you have 7 or less cards in hand, which is very easy for this deck to do. And what's great about him is that it's a permanent and not a auto or activate. So you could actually swing with him when you have like 8 cards in hand, combo a 10k, then he becomes a 35k 2 drop, which is really powerful. And he helps you self awakening. Then we have 4 copies of Goten. Goten is also a great self awakener. He's a repeatable self awakener. And what I like about him is that he helps to get rid of blockers and things like that, or at least clear the way for other cards to be able to go in. He also messes up tempo because on his swing, you can add up to 1 card from your life to your hand. And if you have 7 or less cards in your hand, you get to bounce when your opponent's 2 drops or less. Next, we have 4 copies of Majin Buu, our 20k vanilla. This is going to be key as far as being able to hit Awakened Leaders for most decks. And I think that they're just, very solid cards to have, very low investment for energy. Next, we go to the 3 drops. We played 4 copies of the Gohan. This guy right here is a 35k beater, and you want to make sure, in the case of the Trunks or the Gohan, or even the leader, that you get all these 7 costs or less skills out of the way before you start adding cards back to your hand, so you don't turn these guys off. 4 copies of Piccolo. Piccolo on play, if you have 7 or less cards in hand, returns an extra card from your drop to your hand. Doesn't matter what kind of extra card it is or what it costs. This card is super powerful, and one of the main reasons why I fell in love with Blue to begin with. Then we played 3 copies of Gotenks. He is a concession to deal with the Broly leader. The Broly leader, if you're not aware, is always 25 on the backside. So you need to be able to hit those numbers relatively easily. Granted, you have the Trunks to do it. You have Gohan to way overshoot it. but you still sometimes just need a 25k. Speaking of 25ks, we get to our 4 drop. We have 4 copies of Gotenks. He is the payoff for running all these Goten and Trunks. On play, if you have 7 or less cards in your hand, you get to return 2 of them from your drop, like 1 of each from your drop. Costs 2 or less. He's a 25k himself, so he's able to pressure Awaken Broly. Just a great card overall. Then we play only 2 copies of the 5 drop. And this might seem strange, but I have gotten so used to only playing 2 copies of this card that I don't want him any higher. He is basically there only to close out the game when they're at 2 or less life, and you've done the math, and you know you could actually come through and win the game. Of course, we have 4 copies of the Super Combo. This card right here is goes without saying. And then we have 4 copies of, to me, one of the best cards in the deck, which is Gallic Gun. Gallic Gun is a 1 cost extra card that gives you plus 15,000 attack and is able to draw your card if you have some or less cards in hand. If you have 8 cards in hand, when you activate this card, you technically have 7 cards in hand, so you get to draw back up to 8. It's really busted, and when you combine it with Piccolo, it gives you great offensive and defensive power. And then lastly, 2 copies of Final Flash, because sometimes you just need to deal with your opponent's boss monster or deal with a blocker or something like that. And Final Flash helps you to do it. Just make sure if you do use Final Flash, it does require you to pitch a card from your hand. Pitch something that you're going to be able to get back later. Pitch like one of the Goten's or Trunks, or even pitch another copy of itself and then play Piccolo and bring it back if you have to. So there we go, 2 trial decks, a 50 card deck that has been serving me fairly well as of late. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. This is VG Time signing out.